over the years, I've navigated through various industries. Import-export, I did cosmetics, the beauty industry, but I'm really focusing right now my career on the ever-evolving world of technology. One thing that actually is common and consistent throughout all these sectors is the important focusing on our talent and our people. As we think about finance and transformation, one thing that we really need to do is how do we actually get our teams on this journey to make our impact, better? And what I like to say is, how do we make our impact, we are more impactful together? I currently work at Autodesk. Autodesk is known by being its advanced 3D design, engineering, and entertainment software. My current role at Autodesk is to be the co-pilot of our CMO, so our Marketing Chief Officer, where I'm co-piloting this organization to be more hyper efficient on marketing and really helping the top line growth. So how do we accelerate our revenue with the marketing engine? I'm also leading and crafting our skill sets of the future framework of how we could bring our talent to the next level. As Eric and Hans mentioned, is like, how do we co-partner with technology where we could actually focus on the skills where we could bring additional value to our business? So let's dive into one of the success factor about people and how we could actually make a bigger impact. So next slides, Hans. So why should we transform? So if we imagine a world where we not only keep pace with technology advancement, but we use them to predict and shape future financial trends. Today, we want to discuss why embracing change in finance, it's not just necessarily, it's imperative. If you look at the major shifts that are happening right now in our industry, there's three major ones. One of them is about technology and data, where we're witnessing an explosion of data, where there's a lot of rapid technology growth. And this provides tools for us to get additional insights, empower us to get more information data faster and more than ever. Another thing is about the market dynamics. If you look at the increased complexity and volatility of our business and our modeling tools needs to be more flexible and innovative. And lastly, if you look at our external pressures, from highlighting what we're having with the regularity demands and the call for sustainability, we're being pushed to redefine our roles and our strategies. So each one of these three areas does represent an opportunity for FP&A to really enhance our impact on the business. And this is how we're going to do it, by being adaptive, innovative, and partner-oriented approach. When I think about predictive analytics and our daily workflows, it's important, like what actually Eric just showcased, it allows us to forecast on, how can we actually shape the future, not necessarily how to keep up. So it's time for us to lead the change. And I do think all of us as leaders, we're ready to embrace this change, but are our teams ready to be on this journey? And how do we get them aligned? So how do we get them aligned? Next slide, please. So if you look at the next slide, the way I look at this and how do I align our teams, I see it as three elements of design, or it could be three ingredients. I see that we need to actually do a top-down culture. How do we get the culture is basically the foundation of how we're driving success for our team. The other one is about mindset. I see the mindset shift as a growth engine. We're not getting necessarily smarter, is we're getting more how we focus on things and how we have a new mindset at looking at the information and how can we make an impact. So that's the growth engine. And the last one is behaviors. The behaviors that we actually encourage from our team is really going to promote actions, decision, and making it more quick or adaptive. So this will really drive the agility and speed that we're looking in our teams as we continue to support the business that's constantly evolving. So let's dig deep into the culture. So next slide, please. So as key leaders, we need to integrate the way we do behaviors. So if I look at cultures, there's kind of three ways of looking at it, or there's three things that we're looking at it at Autodesk. First of all, there's a concept of key values. So if you look at how can you drive better income, you need to make sure your team has the ability or the safe environment to ask questions, be courageous, challenge the status quo. So this is where you're going to have better outcomes together. And courageous is actually one of the key values that we promote a lot. Pragmatis is how do we solve problems? So often we have multiple data sets, different ways of looking at it. There's different complexity that we could put at it. But how do we keep it simple where we could be more efficient by committing to quality, not perfection? And lastly, what we try to do is really looking at innovations. How do you challenge your team to look at things differently, pilot, or how to look at problems where you actually keep it simple, but you're looking at different ways of looking at it as thinking the box. So by embedding a new value, the key values that we embed in our culture code, that's also a part of our evaluation for performance. So if you look at what your role is on your goal, but how you execute, by incorporating key values, top downs on how you execute and how you demonstrate it is something that was very important for our culture as we shift our finance organization. Another thing is concept of radical candor. So yes, you could be courageous and give your point of view, but you need a feedback loop. And the only way you could actually do the feedback loop that's actually, where it sticks and people will promote in the safe environment is making sure that you give it direct, but also that you do it where you care. So an example that I actually like to share with my team is that we actually had an offsite a couple of weeks ago, and we each share, one thing that actually we wanted has a positive feedback about a person and something where we think there's an area of improvement by this person. So when we did this round table and all together, at the early stage, it was really uncomfortable to be able to share about things that were positive and negative. But this helped build this concept of trust. And with this trust, more and more when we're working on solving problems, this radical candor is there. And this is where it promotes a different point of view where we could actually enable change and actually make better decision based on different points of view. Lastly, there's this concept of even over. So if you look at our culture, as we continue to leverage technology and we need things quicker, we need to actually think quicker. So we are empowering our teams by actually this concept of even overs. Even overs are like, if you imagine two good things, which one do you empower your team to make a choice on or navigate or towards to? If you look at general FP&A, you have this concept of, do you prefer compliance over speed? Obviously, we like compliance, and that's, it's a gimme. But what about this concept about learning mindset versus successful practice? How do you empower somebody that's very mature in their role to actually promote somebody to learn on something new or a new concept? Or if you look at business partnering, how do you look at the concept of partner strategically versus just provide what your stakeholders want? How do you provide data or actually promote kind of thought process or different lens versus actually just giving a service provider? Other ones that we could leverage is this concept of agility over robustness, or design for long scale over short-term quick fix, or transparency over cohesion. Things like that will actually give this concept where your organization will be more agile and will create this culture where we could actually constantly transform together. Now let's move to the growth engine on the next slide, and how can we actually focus on mindset? So as you have the environment where people could actually challenge, look, and learn, while you actually get the mindset, and the mindset is really where there's a shift that needs to happen. As Eric and Hans mentioned today about with AI, we need to partner with technology and really leveraging those skills where we could focus where we could actually do what AI can do. And one of them is actually partnering skills. So if you partner with technology, you partner with your business, then how do you through this concept of trust? How do you become co-pilots where you're leading in business decision, where you're an advocate for actually the business lead that you're doing today? Another one will be, if you look at skill sets, we have this framework about soft skills and also analytic skills. But if I want to double click on the soft skills, if you go beyond the partnering, what about how you manage your team of looking at more as a consultative coming in the business and say, okay, I have this problem statements I need to do. I need to look at revenue opportunities or make it more efficient. how do you frame the problem statement where you do it more efficiently? So the framing is really around the strategy thinking. So if your teams are actually looking at a lot of stuff and how to prioritize, if you could actually get them to focus on how do you frame this problem, how do you have the strategic lens on it? Once you have that, really, how do you double click on the data-driven problem that you're doing? An example is like, are you looking at the right KPIs? Are you overwhelmed in the data? What are really trying to solve? So you really focus the problem statement and where you could get insights. And the last one for me, this is kind of the key one, is how do you tell that story to execs, or how do you actually promote action? So if you take information that becomes, insights with the key skills, how do you take those insights and actually frame it in a way where you make decisions? And the storytelling and executive communication is really where you'll see finance make a huge impact in business decisions and how can we influence the outcome. Lastly, it's great to have the great mindsets, and you could promote any training and learning curve or behaviors, but you really need to have this concept of ambassadors. Ambassadors could be a cohort of cross-functional sub-finance teams. It could be a specific skill set. And how do you promote those ambassadors within your org where you can actually skill that mindset shift around the organization? An example we have is we are having a team offsite in a couple of weeks where we're doing a workshop of actually pushing down certain skill sets or problem statements so we could actually tackle them together and learn together so we could apply them in our day-to-day. And how do we inspect it is how do we make sure we follow up on that project so we actually understand our key learnings. Now, we talked about culture, we talked about mindset. So what about, our next step is, if you look at the other one, is like, okay, what about behaviors? So if you look at the world of finance, we're used to have things in a more rigid way of we having certain, processes to tier your balance sheet. But what about testing concepts? It could be an example right now. If you look at the marketing organization, there's this concept of A/B testing. Do we test on the market if the color blue or red sticks? What about applying that in finance? Can we test a cohort of customers to see if actually the behavior moves, if we actually do it differently, or is that in an area that we still need to invest? Or is that continue to be as is because nothing is breaking? So testing more and more and leading by curiosity is a super skill that we need to actually have as a behavior to be more adaptable and create action. Another one is understanding our drivers. Like there's a lot of drivers out there, but understanding your leading indicators, your lagging indicators, which one are the top 3 that we're going to talk at C-Staff, and how does that cascade down to the business? So having a common set of indicators, understanding our drivers will give us the common language where we could actually shift things and pivot things when things are needed. And lastly is like, as we have, all these behaviors and mindset shift, we really need to celebrate your wins. So we're all humans driven by behaviors. And basically, if we celebrate our wins, we also need to celebrate our learnings and celebrate where we learn and how do we share best practice. So by having all of that, it's going to really create a behavior that's going to stick and be repeatable. So how do we close it out? So next slide. So how I bring this all together, it's actually an interesting concept. So if I look at the concept of culture, mindset, and transforming, it's really about these elements. So your culture, as we learned them at, where my experience is that if you push a new culture, it has to be top down and it has to be embedded in culture codes, and your employees need to be evaluated on their performance on the how, definitely on the culture and the behavior. The mindset, you don't get more intelligent over years, but you need to leverage technology and you need to have this learning mindset where you actually could bring a point of view to the table and be a co-pilot. It's really driving and leaning in. As for the behavior, when you look at our behavior, it's really getting, the reward based on focus and impact. What can actually is making an impact on the business, not what you like to do or what is actually important in the past. And this is actually creating that feedback loop where you could continue to learn and actually be, more directional at where you need to go. And it will drive to action. Beyond the numbers, finance, we tend to be numbers, but how do we think behind the numbers? Let's test stuff. Let's be curious. Let's celebrate our wins and celebrate our learnings. And all of this, when it comes together, it'll get us more agile, and our speed of delivery will be quicker. And this will definitely average basically us to do decisions quicker and actually have this, this framework about decisions. Now, the even overs is a concept that was super successful for us. So I would highly encourage, looking at your organization, and yeah, you could apply them to yours. So thank you for the time. And this is how I think on this journey of transformation, how you could actually bring the people along to make sure that we actually are more impactful and we're leaning in finance.